At this point, I think Kulafana should wrap everything pertaining to Anikulapo the series. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Basically, we do movie reviews and give you all the gist going on in the industry, the music industry, the film industry, and the skit industry. And today we'll be reviewing the newly released season of the Anikulapo, The Ghoul Awakening, a sequel to the last released Rise of Spectre, and we'll be reviewing the 5 episodes of The Ghoul Awakening. And without further ado, let's get right into the synopsis. Anikulapo The Ghoul Awakening follows the story of afterlife of Bashorun Ogunjimi, meant to face punishment for his past sins. Desperate to escape, a return to the living world, not dead, not alive. A heavy transformation that comes with a heavy price. The new episodes also develop new characters like the Alaafen's sons, his encounter with the mysterious lady, and also Arolake in a new entanglement with Akin and new ordeals. Anikulapo is produced and directed by Kunle Afolayan. Honestly, in the last 2 years, it has been a drive in Nollywood. The usage of special effects, some has been good, some has been terribly used, some has been abused. But one thing I would take anywhere is that The Ghoul Awakening, the special effect is on another level. I think I was discussing with someone, I think last week, that when I watched The King of Thieves Part 2 that was released in local cinema, I've seen Femi Adebayo done so many films and he has used special effect and it was brilliantly infused, it was brilliantly used. But in this particular Part 2 of the King of Thieves, it was poorly used, it was poorly executed. But in Anikulapo The Ghoul Awakening, the usage of the special effect was brilliantly used. Awesome, perfect, great. One would almost believe that all of that thing was done manually, but the special effect in this film was brilliant, and one would tell that it is a whole brain that was put together to achieve that. It is not necessary for it to be too much, but the few scenes that special effects was needed, it was brilliantly executed. Hollywood is advancing with the use of AI. In the last 1 year, we've seen a lot of producers, especially cinema projects, where they infuse the use of artificial intelligence, AI, and it has been beautiful to see. It's refreshing to see, especially in this Adeoluwa's film, The Colors of Fire, and there was also usage of AI in this film, Make Mission. But there's something specific and spectacular in the use of AI in this Anikulapo The Ghoul Awakening, especially at the part where Ogunjimi's transition, where he had to be on the boat on the water, the whole eel thing, and it was great. It was beautiful to see. It was brilliant. Ademoye did his thing with it in the Colors of Fire, but it was very, very funny to see. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect. The use of AI in this Ghoul Awakening was not perfect, but it was near perfect. It was used efficiently. It is amazing to see. Honestly, that's like the major thing that really caught my attention. That caught it for me in this Anikulapo The Ghoul Awakening. The use of AI, especially the mountains, and the whole hills up and the river, the whole transition. The whole scene of Ogunjimi's transition at the afterlife was brilliantly done. It was brilliantly executed, and I must give it to Kunle Afolayan for that infusion. Honestly, I cannot but mention the amazing infusion of the fogs. I think it is not so common in the industry. Of course, it is understandable that for the success of the storytelling, especially in that kind of epidemic, like quite numbers of scenes were shot in the forest that's supposed to be forest, and where weatheric fog is needed. And I've seen so many movies that was shot in the forest and that attention was not paid to. But in this one, the usage of the weatheric fog was so brilliant to have been seen in that film. I just feel like Kunle Afolayan paid attention to the production. Honestly, I give it to him, kudos to him for that usage of fog and the amazing lighting. I must not deny the fact that the whole scenes were lit appropriately. They were lit properly, and it all contributed to the whole cinematic feel. Honestly, this is hard to say, but in the last 1 year, Anikulapo The Ghoul Awakening is the most cinematic film, honestly. And I've seen so many films, and I'm not supposed to mention, but the Ghoul Awakens is the most cinematic film that has been released, because attention to details were paid attentively. The different a lot of expertise was employed in the shooting of this film, especially the close shot, the natural shot, the overhead shot, the bird eye view. Everything was perfectly executed, contributed to the success of this production. Trust me, it did. One of the things that I love about this film is the exhibition of other culture, other languages. As much as it is a Yoruba epic film, it is brilliant to have seen the Portuguese culture, the infusion, the coming of the pre-colonial era, and how the Portuguese came in with the slave trade thing. Also, I saw the exploration of the Fata language. It is necessarily not a Yoruba language. It is from, I think, from the Dahomey part of the West Africa. It is beautiful to see. And as much as we are telling an epic story, the usage of, or the infusion of, the Portuguese culture and also the Fata language, it was beautifully explored. I give it to the producer. Another thing that I found interesting in this film is the attention to the details in the part of the left underarm hair. Everybody that was needed to show their naked body made sure that they were an underarm hair. It depicts the Africanness. There's something in the African culture where I think it is symbolic to the Africans, where they live there underarm. I think it is just an African thing, and it is amazing. I think it's an attention to details which is very, very particular, and I love it. The very first thing that will be visible to everybody is the inconsistency in the tribal mark. Everybody who is seeing this video is going to agree with me that most of the people that carried tribal mark that showed in maybe multiple scenes, most of us is going to agree that there were inconsistency in the tribal mark appearance. Maybe in this scene, the tribal mark is deep, and another scene where they are going to be showing the tribal mark is completely fainted. This is 2026, and more attention to be paid to in the usage of the tribal marks. If at all we want to use it, then it must be done excellently. It is very evident. It wasn't just one person, including Saga Adeoluwa, that played the role of the Arole of Alafin. Awaru's tribal mark was inconsistent. Practically most of the major cast that carried tribal marks, the tribal marks were very inconsistent. It could be deep here, it could be fat somewhere, and it could be light somewhere. It was just all around. It wasn't consistent, honestly. It wasn't. I've seen a lot of people say the film is boring, but I'd rather say it is quite mature. It was all over the place, honestly, but for us not to sugarcoat it, it was very boring for a movie that we've anticipated for more than a year. I think Kula should either drop this or find a better storytelling pattern to keep his audience or the film itself glued. But in all honesty, for a movie that we've waited for years, not this year, not last year, and coming with just 5 episodes of developing new aspect of I understand the point where it's coming from. Maybe he wants to develop a new aspect of the film and not just necessarily be around Sarah and Oralake, and which is evident in this new season. But it should have found a balance where people who have been a fan of the Anikulapo from the very beginning will still be able to enjoy the pace and also develop new aspects. But completely for 70% of the viewers or the lovers of Anikulapo, I think the film fell short, and it couldn't keep the balance between developing new aspects and also making it all the pace that a lot of people had enjoyed. And honestly, that is how I feel about it. For anyone who is Yoruba, the old Oyo Empire, or who is lover of history, would agree with me that the old Oyo Empire is envisaged, has been told to be one of the biggest empire after Ilefe, and even in the history wise, I think Oyo at a point became one of the biggest empire of the Yoruba language. But it is very shocking, and it brings question of how the old Oyo Empire has been portrayed to be like a small city. And I think it brings to the fact that the whole set design has its own how will I put it, has its own error. Because if you're trying to tell a story of an old Oyo Empire that is believed to be a big empire that contains a lot of spaces, that contains a lot of people, and it has been portrayed in the film as just a small town with some set of small people, I think it is an error. Honestly, for any historian who is seeing the film, they are going to feel the same way. If anything like Oyo Empire or the old Oyo Empire in its actual sense is to be depicted, I think it should have a more landscape and a bigger scope in the aspect of the palace, the aspect of the town, the aspect of the market. The whole Oyo Empire has just been limited to just a particular serene place. We know we are trying to depict, we are trying to portray, but in the mode of portraying, I think we should be portrayed efficiently and properly according to how historians told it, or according to what history holds. Most of us is going to agree to this. What really made that film, Anikulapo in a sense, I mean the film, the first series, what really made it memorable for us was the soundtrack. The first film added with Ken Jobi with so much memorable soundtrack, and the first series had with Adeaga with one of the most memorable soundtrack that is being still used till today. And it's very surprising to most of the viewers that this season 2 does not carry any specific soundtrack. I don't know the experiment Kunle Afolayan is trying to come up with in this new season, but I feel it should have given us maybe from the past people who made the soundtrack, or new people trying to create new talent. But it is very surprising that there was no particular soundtrack, no memorable soundtrack to just hold the memories of this film. Maybe because it was just in its defense, it's just trying to experiment things. But I feel like it is part of the way that this movie fell short, because music is a channel where the emotions are being conveyed, but in this series it just contains some kind of special sound effects and no specific soundtrack to have carried or embodied the whole message. I feel like it's just some kind of way for me. And if you would ask me, that soundtrack, it was very necessary to have embodied the whole story. Honestly, production-wise, Anikulapo is not a bad film. I enjoyed the cinematography. I enjoyed a lot of things from the production aspect, but from the story aspect, is a no for me. For a movie that waited for like 2 years for it to come out, and we were presented with just 5 episodes, and 5 episodes felt like we are just diving into a new journey. I feel like it didn't really cut it for me. But for the production aspect, it was amazing, especially the AI part, the usage of the AI part, the cinematography, the exploit with the cinematography in particular. It was awesome. I really love it. I really love it. I really love the directing. The dialogue was awesome. The dialogue became better compared to the last season and also the first one. They became intentional, and I think there were a pattern of the usage of the origin of Oyo language. It became better. It was not completely perfect, but it became better. The dialogue was awesome. The dialogue was near perfect, but could still be better. But in honesty, story-wise, it is for someone who is not a critical person, or who is not a technical person, that just want to enjoy the film. They might find this film a bit boring and waste of time, in all honesty. So for this, I'm going to be rating it. I think I'm going to be rating a 6 out of 10, and that is fair enough. And that 6 is coming out of the fact that I enjoyed the production. I know what went down in the aspect of the production. It was a fantastic one. It was an excellent one, but the story fell short. That was that about the movie Anikulapo, The Ghoul Awakening. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope I know you might have reservations. Make sure to drop it in the comment section, and thank you for always watching. Make sure to like, share, comment, and also subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And there's so much to come on this channel. Make sure you keep fixated on and wait till we see next time. Thank you very much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye.